Okay, year one. This is for A, guys. We're going to talk about distance formula, midpoints, things like that. We're also going to not only just stay in 2D, we're actually going to branch into 3D. And guys, it's just an extension. So I think this is actually a fairly straightforward lesson again. We are starting a chapter over. This chapter will get a little bit more interesting with a couple different ideas of trying to find the best place to locate a business or in the middle of a couple different objects. And that's coming down the road. But we're going to start off really easy. You guys should know midpoint formula, guys. We have done this before. Midpoint formula is just average of the x values, average of the y values. Add them up, divide by 2. So obviously example 1 should be pretty nice. Just take -3 plus 0 over 2 and 5 plus 7 over 2. So then you get -3 halves and 6, if we do that correct, or -1.5 and 6. So add them up, divide by 2. That is going to find, it says the endpoints of the diameter of a circle, find the coordinates of the center of the circle. The center would be on the endpoints, right? So if this is one point, that's a point of a circle, the center is the midpoint. So that's how you kind of figure that out. Next up is the fact that what happens, and obviously don't look at the work here, I left it on so we can just kind of move quickly. Now they're going to say, hey, this is the midpoint. -3, 7.5, x, 5, and -110 are the points on each side. So guys, here's a really cool thing. Guys, this is like on our ACT test. They do this a lot. They don't just give you midpoint. They want you to apply the midpoint. So just like before, I can take x plus -1, divide by 2, and that should equal -3. Just like 5 plus 10, which is 15, and 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. Now that one doesn't matter because I only have x in here that I need to find. So they took x plus the -1 divided by 2 equals -3. Multiply both sides by 3 to get -6. Add over 1, you get -5. So it's actually pretty straightforward. Now, take a look here. Now, they give us here in x, y, z plane. This is three-dimensional. Now, I know that when I have taught Algebra 2 in the past, there used to be a section like this, but that was several years ago, so therefore we might not actually have it anymore. But notice what they did here is that the xy plane, which is normally x, and then y, so like this, with x and y, that has now become the bottom of the page. So that would be your tabletop. And then what they do is they put z in here. Z, guys, z here is your height. So if z is positive, you come off the table. If z is negative, you would actually go into the table or below the table, so down. So notice that x positive is going to come at you out of the board, and y now is the one that's going horizontally. So it doesn't ask us in this particular section to necessarily graph them in 3D. If that does happen, I'll show you guys a really cool way to graph those. But I think what they want you to really talk about is this next section. The next section is this idea that if you have a three-dimensional, because the world is three-dimensional around us, and in this situation, you have a person standing at R on a mountain. Someone is at S, this is S, up here at a different set of coordinates straight up the mountain. So he is 400 feet above, that's what Z is here, 400 feet above, where the guy at R is 0 feet above the ground. But he's got different coordinates, so he has run out 60 feet, say feet this way, or meters, I'm not sure where we're at here. This is coordinates, so we can say, oh, it's in meters. So we are 60 meters out, and then we're also 60 meters over in the y direction, positive, by 0 height. Whereas this guy's not going anywhere but straight up 400 meters. The question it's asking is how many meters above the ground is this height? Well, where would be the midpoint, I guess you would say, is midpoint between the guy who's standing 400 feet up, or meters up, and the guy who's standing 0 meters up. Well, isn't that just the average between 400 and 0, aka the midpoint between 400 and 0? So wouldn't I just take 400 plus 0 and divide by 2, which is 400 over 2, that's a bad 0, which equals 200? That would be the midpoint of the height, the middle. That's what part A is asking. So then wait, how do you know between the rest of the midpoints in the question 2 is? How do I know the midpoint for the other direction? How about the x direction? Where this guy's 60 feet out, this guy's 0 feet out. Or meters, sorry. Wasn't that just 60 plus 0 divided by 2? So 30? So this guy would be 30 meters out of the board in the x direction. If you do the same thing for the y, the y's, he's 80 feet over this way. This guy's at 0. So all I'm doing is just taking the x's, adding them, divide by 2. Taking the y's, adding them, divide by 2. Taking the average, just like before, of the x's and y's, I just take the x's, the y's, and the z's. That's what it's saying. Then part 3, it wants you to come up with that formula. Let's just go here. Hey, there's the formula. Add them up, divide by 2. Add them up, divide by 2. Add them up, divide by 2. So that is really cool. You guys will actually recognize, I think it's in the next lesson, we start talking about distance formula, and distance formula is just the extension of the regular distance formula. But, so in this example here, they have a cuboid with A, B, C, O, A, B, C1, O1. Oh, lots of different variables, the same variables with subletters. Has the dimensions of 4, 5, 2. The vertices of the base are the following coordinates. There they are. Sketch it in a 3D graph. So essentially, it's just making a big rectangle and labeling your sides. So obviously, on the bottom, you have 5. Along the sides, you have 4. And a height of 2. It's really what it comes down to. And what you can do is determine the coordinates of A, B, C, and O1s. So where's A1? A1 is here. So let's do that one first. A1, the coordinates, now it's got to have 3 coordinates. So we do x first. In x's, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So A1 is going to be 4 over. Notice that because it's here, it's at 0 y's. And then I had to go up the 2. So it's 4, 0, 2. And you will follow that all the way around to find B1, C1, and O1. And then it says it wants you to find it between A, C1. So it wants to know midpoint here. So in all of this, find C1. C1 is 0x, 5, and 2. So now the midpoint is just add up. 4 plus 0 is 4, divide by 2. 0 plus 5, divide by 2. 2 plus 2, divided by 2. You will find the midpoint. And actually, it's kind of interesting. Find the midpoint of this one as well and see if that is different. Actually, did we find the wrong we found the wrong midpoint. Guys, I talked about the wrong midpoint. This midpoint is midpoint of A1, C1. They wanted A, C1. So this one, those 2 corners. Same thing, add them up, divide it out. So that is all we're going to do, okay? You guys should be able to do 4A. Have a great day.